Hi there, I'm Jeanette Lane, a craft designer at Craft Stash, and in today's video I wanted to do a review on the Cricut Cuttlebug die cutting machine. This machine is very similar to the Sizzix Foldaway in that it's compact, so let me turn this over so you can see the side view, and it has the collapsible platforms. So again, a very similar design, but I just wanted to share how it embosses, how it die cuts, my thoughts and reactions on it. So let's jump into the video. So the Cricut Cuttlebug on the Craft Stash website comes with the cutting platforms, which have already been used and loved. And it also comes with an embossing folder and a wafer thin die for you to try out. I lost the embossing folder and the wafer thin dies somewhere in between the shuffle and transport from the video studio to the office. So apologies for that, but I will have the product listing below so that you can see everything that's included up close. But I am going to use a Joanna Sheen wafer thin die and also a Joanna Sheen embossing folder. And these two will do the trick in demonstrating the die cutting machine. So let's talk a little bit more about the platforms, and I love that each one is labeled. So this is platform A, and it's called the spacer. And then I love that it has a name, the spacer. And then we have two platform Bs, and these are cutting pads. So these are identical in width and in size. But if I turn this over, you'll see that that platform A is just a little bit thicker than the cutting pads. And then we have this gray embossing mat. And this is A2 size. I think this machine is great. I love the size of it. It looks like a handbag, and I really love the color, which is a muted kind of mint, almost like a robin's egg color. And this platform, this like rubber mat on the bottom, it's like a suction, it creates like a suction to your working surface, and it's amazing, guys. So right now it's not activated, right? So I'm just slipping and sliding this die cutting machine all over my desk. But when you open the collapsible platforms, they're just opening those up, this baby does not move. It's like earthquake proof. It is stuck to your desk, which is great because you don't want this thing to move around as you're die cutting. First up, I wanted to show you how this machine die cuts. So here is my cardstock, and here is my wafer thin die. This is a signature die designed by Joanna Sheen. Now for my cutting pad combination, I want to refer to my user manual, and I don't want to throw this away because the combinations for embossing and die cutting and all that is inside the user manual. So keep this handy. Maybe you want to trim this up and remove the staple binding and maybe laminate it and keep it for reference, like close by in your desk drawer. Other die cutting systems sometimes do print the combinations right onto the cutting combinations right onto the cutting platforms, but this one doesn't, so make sure that you keep your user manual on hand. So to die cut my wafer thin die, I'm going to need the A platform, which is the spacer platform. I'm going to need the gray embossing pad, and then the two cutting pads. So I'm going to put down one cutting pad, so that's the B pad, and I'm going to add my paper, my cardstock, and then my dies on top of that. So I have my die edge face down, or you can also do it face up, but the paper would have to be this way. All right, so we've got that down, and then I'm just going to top this sandwich with the B cutting pad. Now on each of the cutting pads and also the spacer A platform, it says that you need to place your dies on top of this line. So don't place your dies all the way down here. You want to make sure that they're centered in the middle of the platform, just because there is the most pressure on the center of the platform as you're running it through. So just a word of caution, make sure that your dies are just north of this sticker here along the bottom. And we're just going to run this through our machine. That clicking sound is definitely normal, so don't worry too much about that. And now I can remove, there's some of my die cuts. And now I can remove the die and my paper from my cutting pad. Sometimes they stick because of the pressure. Your wafer thin dies might stick to your cutting pad, but that's okay. You just kind of shimmy them off. Okay, and here are our die cuts. So I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to grab another piece of cardstock and also my embossing folder, and I'm going to show you how to emboss with the Cuttlebug. And for embossing, I'm going to need the A spacer platform, a B cutting pad, my paper with my embossing folder, my paper inside the embossing folder, and then finally another B cutting pad right on top. And I'm just going to roll this through. And this leaves a beautiful embossed textured impression. Now, besides using embossing folders and wafer thin dies with your Cuttlebug, you can also die cut with steel ruled dies. So this die is a Sizzix die, so it's a completely different brand, a different company than the Cricut Cuttlebug. But if you have one of these types of dies, you can cut thicker materials like multiple layers of fabric, leather, matte board, all sorts, fun foam even, but you can also cut fun foam with wafer thin dies. But thicker materials, you will need a steel ruled die, and you can still use your Cuttlebug for that. So the sandwich for that is going to be very different. You're not going to need this spacer A platform, so you can set that aside. All you're going to need is a B cutting pad, your steel ruled die, which you can see is very thick. So we're going to place that there. And then I have my piece of cardstock. So I'm just going to lay that right on top of there, kind of on the right side of my die. And then another B cutting pad on top. And I'm going to roll this through my machine. And there are my die cuts. Now, as you saw, you can emboss with the Cricut Cuttlebug. You can die cut wafer thin dies. You can also die cut with steel ruled dies, which is great. And I just love the compact design. I love how the platform collapses up and down, and also that it's very secure on your work surface, very helpful. So a great machine to consider. If perhaps you're looking for a new machine, or maybe you want to buy your first die cutting machine, it's a great one to pick. The only thing that I would say, it's not really a drawback, but the platform is only 6 inches wide. And that's not going to be a problem because most dies in embossing folders, whether they're A2 sized or A6 sized, they will fit through this platform as well as dies. But sometimes there are dies on the market and embossing folders that are much bigger than this, so you're not going to be able to use this machine for that. You're going to need something with an 8.5 inch platform, like maybe the Spellbinders Platinum, or even the Big Shot Plus, which is a 9 inch platform, and that's going to give you more room to use, bigger dies and embossing folders that are on the market. But like I mentioned, most embossing folders will not be a problem, so you'll still be able to fit them through this 6 inch wide platform. I'm Jeanette Lane for Craft Stash. I hope that this video was helpful for you. And if you have any questions about die cutting, you can leave those in the comments below and I will try my best to get to them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you real soon.